This is the Tapped In Podcast, the podcast for beverage distributors that want to empower their sales team to drive business results. Listen up and welcome back to another episode of the Tapped In Sales Podcast, your podcast for beer distributors by beer distributors. I'm one of your co-hosts here, Bud, with Moneyball Ross and Data Mike. Boys, it is another week. A great episode last week, and we thought we would follow it up off of the episode with the Calumet crew with some of a contrast of like, how would you flip the script and collapse or negatively impact your GP per CE after hearing from somebody who's doing so good at growing and being focused on it. So a little bit of a really Charlie Munger inversion theory, right? One of the favorite things to do. So boys, any ideas if you were gonna look at this and say, how would I take my GP per CE down and just go to as low as possible? What would be the first thing you'd do?
Well, first of all, was it a good episode because I wasn't there? Or was barely there?
It was a great episode, and you were there. We did a little bit of a technical difficulty and a VPN in. I don't think the people noticed that in the first part, like I'm slacking with you and talking and introducing and sending you the trouble ticket, or not the troubleshooter, but like the tester to get into the podcast recording solution. And then you just showed up and it was great.
All right, Mikey, then tell us how you ruin your GP.
Yeah, by not paying attention to it. I mean, overall, 3,000 foot view, right? Don't pay attention to it. Quickly ruin it. Run every discount you can. Pay no mind to your GP, and especially your GP per CE, I think is the number one fastest way to go ahead and ruin that.
Well, let's grab that first one real quick. Don't pay attention to it at all. That is something that we've never looked at before either when at Atlas. And Ross, it was something that you started doing at your wholesaler. I don't think your wholesaler had looked at it at all. Do we think sheerly looking at it does impact the results? Just paying attention to it?
Well, I mean, I've sold you on the Kool-Aid, and now you're the chief Kool-Aid salespeople. But again, it goes back to what we say, what you're trying to achieve. And for me, it is the base thing that you're trying to achieve as a sales team, a distributor. So, and I think to Mikey's point, the worst thing you could do is not pay attention at all to it. If you do, you have to then say, okay, so if you're not paying attention to it, who or what is? And I think that's where the damage comes in, is if you're not paying attention to it, somebody else is, or is doing something in ways that isn't focused or thinking about that. And that leads to the results that you don't want.
Fascinating. I've always thought that this is something like you inspect what you expect. And as soon as we started inspecting it and expecting it to grow, we just started organically making decisions that were strategic to it. So just the mere fact of looking at it, Mike, probably does make a positive impact for sure.
Well, I mean, our best clients, it becomes their culture.
Yeah.
I mean, just inspecting it is not, I mean, it's an important first step, but it has to become part of the culture. Because again, like I go back to, if you're not the one driving it culturally and strategically, then who is? I think it's, we can go down the list here, but it's going to be your rep who's just going to decide to focus on volume or whatever he thinks you want, which may or may not, will not be in line with your GP goals. Next, it's going to be your suppliers. They're going to erode your profitability, one, through discounting, or two, they're going to do it through innovative packaging, innovative ways to take your margin. What they're getting sold into accounts that innovate margin. Anyway, I'm taking us down a bunch of different rabbit holes here, but go ahead. I'll stop there.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And sometimes if you're running a business and you want to improve it, you have to take a step back and say, all right, well, what would absolutely ruin it? What's going to take this whole business right down to the ground, and then start from there, right, to build it better. But just opening up your eyes to the GP, not even diving in so much to the GP per CE, but just total GP. And instead of just overlooking and looking at your P&L and watching your GP grow that way, you got to know what's contributing to that and what's negatively contributing to that. So where is this GP coming from, and what's holding it back and bringing it down? And until you dig into that, I mean, that's the first place I would start.
You also touched on discounting, over discounting, chasing volume. One of the things that I've seen people do in certain markets is, and I really, really hate it, is called bundled discounts, is my kind of tagline to it. Buy any 19.2s or any collection of any 19.2s or any collection of any 25-ounce cans or any collections of 12 packs full across brands and get an XYZ discount on all of them. I just don't see how that's beneficial to your P&L on the bottom line, especially when some of those brands in the 19.2 space can have such a different profitability metric from a mix. Be super wide. What else on discounting?
Well, I mean, we've done a couple episodes. Maybe you link those down below on this one. I think I've made my feelings about discounting very clear. I don't know if we need to
that price elasticity.
I don't know if we need to rehash it, but yes, the price elasticity is a great episode if you want to dive deep into that and see the economics of it. There's very few discounts that have a positive return on investment. And the margins and the incentives of your retailers and your suppliers, which are on both sides of you in this 3-tier system, they have different economics than you. And even a discount that may or may not be beneficial to either the retailer or the supplier could also be negative ROI for you. So again, if you're not in control of what you're doing and you're not watching your GP and you're not running the decision-making process through profitability, and that includes discounting, then somebody else will. And their economics can be completely different than yours. And you're going to let the tail wag the dog.
Absolutely. And right back to the beginning, be aware of it, right? Do the math. Take the time to do the math on those discounts. Is it going to pay off? Is it negatively affecting my overall GP growth? Do these products already sell at a pretty good clip? Do I need to discount them to lose a couple bucks to gain a few cases? Is it already a loyal account and I'm just throwing them the discount because they're loyal? They were going to sell the same amount of beer already. Now I'm just paying them to do the same thing that they would have done before, but being aware of it, and bridge buying, lining up all your promos to be able to allow bridge buying in between. I mean, that's a great way to lose GP, right? That's a great way to wreck your GP per CE for sure. But
great for the retailer.
Great for the retailer, absolutely. Especially if they have space or they have multiple locations where they're buying up one location and splitting it amongst 3 or 4 so that they can hit that deal every time.
Man, we had a great retailer and my distributor that everybody said was such a great retailer because on the buy-in they just completely jacked the volume. And I dove in a little bit on it, and what this retailer was doing is they were renting 53-foot refrigerated trailer, and on the deep week, like the one really deep week, or the really deep month, they were filling up the 53-foot trailer of the product. And then what was interesting is how much finished product loss came back from this account 6 months later.
And then they were tied together.
And we were just trading the product back out again. So, we shot ourselves in the foot or in the head twice on that one. So again, exposing your reps to the profitability of that, in our case, changed that equation drastically. There was no more 53-foot trailer being purchased. We just didn't allow it because the rep was like, well, if I don't fill up a 53-foot trailer, 1, I'm not going to get murdered on my FPL calculation, and 2, I can sell in at a higher margin and make commissions all year based on the fact that I just doubled the margin of that single account, which was my biggest account.
I was hanging out with some existing clients last week, and we went out to lunch and we were talking about, they have a handful of, well, more than a handful, but they have a large group that do a co-op together, right? Where they will buy into those discounts. split them up so that they can get those deep discounts for all of the different packages, and then split it up against the other accounts. Beer side, not dabbling in it as much, but liquor side for sure, they're taking full advantage of that. But yeah, I mean, they kind of refuse to allow that to happen, so they put their foot down. Like, no, we're not doing that. But their competition is.
Well, take it back. I mean, obviously, I missed 3/4 of the episode last week. Let's what was Calumet doing before, and then let's tie it directly to what changed. Right. So what were they doing before?
They're doing volumetric focus before on a CE basis, basically exclusively CE basis. Okay. When they brought in profitability and volume times profit method of the madness, the reps started to understand that there was profit disparity across the book, not just velocity disparity, but profit disparity across the book. And that they started to tweak the mix. And I remember when I went down there because I went in person, and I went down there for the first time, and I actually made a couple visits to accounts before I met with Mark and Dan. And we started getting into dinner. Gotten into lunch. We had a good lunch. And then I asked him a question. I said, so how many months ago was Stella on PFP for like 50 case displays? And they were like, a month and a half ago. And I'm like, I can see where there's 50 case displays in all these places that probably shouldn't have 50 case displays. And Dan like looks at Mark and is like, that's part of the problem. It's big part of the problem that we're thinking about here.
But they've been very successful because culturally they've changed.
Yeah.
And and I think too, as I look at Calumet, is they had no other choice. I mean, what they were doing wasn't working. It was leading to a really negative outcomes. The distributors that I worry about most are the ones that either kind of dabbled in revenue, or they're big enough that they don't have to. They can lose a certain percentage of their business over the years in terms of dollars, and still operate just fine profitably.
They have so much economy of scale. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that sometimes, necessity is the mother of innovation. Invention usually is what people say. Innovation in this case.
Yeah. That was definitely where their crew came at it. And the product mix was like, I'm just going to put a ton of cases on the floor and see what happens. And I remember negotiating with their sales team regularly during implementation. And while we were on site around like, we don't have to build 100 case display of just one brand. We can allocate 100 cases and spread the love around to multiple brands. Like, let's not give up the floor space. If there's floor space to be had and the velocity is there over that number of units on the floor, and we're not going to have a finished product loss issue by putting that much product on the floor, then maintain it for sure. And this sounds weird, if you're going to have a churn problem on having that much product on the floor, you need to just release yourself from having that much product on the floor, because that's costing you money as well in a negative way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I'm king of let people have the incentives and let it drive, but there is something to be said for holding the floor space, and I think it's important. Now, you could argue that if you're intelligent and you want to drive the maximum GP, you'd be silly not to try to control the space. But controlling the space is important. I think to your point, Bud, having it all one product, that's your $2 a case margin product, is not productive. I mean, obviously, if it's 50% of the volume moving through that store, you want it to be easy for the customer to find. But that's not how you're going to move profitability upwards.
Yeah, it felt like.
I was just gonna say that's a huge point. Where what you said, like, if you have that space and you don't want that brand on display of all 100 cases because you think you're going to have a code problem, that's still your space, right? You've been given that space. It wasn't 100%. Hey, let's keep it with this brand. Well, most people think that, but going back to the store manager, whoever's calling the shots there and saying, hey, you know, I was thinking about splitting this up, and I'm going to throw this brand and this brand and this brand on there, flank it with, you know, 12 packs on the side. And this is why. Here's the story why. Not just because I can't move this product through. I don't think I want to lead with that in my story. I want to lead with, I see some opportunity to get some more sales on some other brands that could be tied to this. Right?
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
not
the
going
worst
to
thing,
hurt what's on
insult to
display.
injury would be giving the space to your competitor and let him sell $2 a case product. So not only did
Yeah.
you lose the volume, but now, you know, now he's selling his shitty cheap beer.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, what you want him to do is, you want your competitor to keep his space and keep doing the wrong thing and maximize your space, keep it and leverage it. And then hopefully
Absolutely.
when you prove to the store manager that you're better at managing his profitability, you know, maybe you can get some more space back from the competitor and do the right thing.
I think that we've lost the kind of intellect around building or harnessing floor space in a way that isn't just brand centric. Like, you know, the largest suppliers have done an incredible job of like saying it should be brand centric, brand centric, brand centric, brand centric. And like, to me, it's like you got your 50 cases on the floor, you got your 100 cases on the floor, 30 cases, whatever it is. Allocate it how you see fit. Be creative. Don't always feel compelled to just do, you know, Miller High Life or Miller Lite or Bud Light or Michelob Ultra. Like, mix it up.
Yeah.
And also mix and match packages too. That's another good thing too around like value segment. Not understanding the profitability disparity even in your value segment is another big miss as well, because you can find like these incredible micro opportunities that are pennies and nickels and dimes differences, but because you're selling so much volume of it, it drives the needle in a huge way every month for an individual rep.
And every account's different. I mean, maybe your high profitability wing is Victoria. Maybe it's not Deschutes or Bell's, or maybe it's a Hispanic brand, and there's great margin in some of the premium Hispanic brands. So one size doesn't fit all, and that's again why you just got to give. You know, you got to give you got to have smart reps, and we're gonna. I saw this, but we need to. You have smart reps calling on the right accounts, doing the right thing, and having smart reps calling on the accounts where you can make a difference is a huge piece.
Well, here's a good anecdotal story. Or when I'm out with a rep, seasoned veteran rep in this instance, and kind of challenged with what I was pitching them, somebody who's been in a volume mindset for the longest time. It's like, I don't understand why focusing on volume isn't what we should just do, because it's just easier to do. And I'm like, okay, well, we're standing in this cooler, my man, and you've got Modelo 24-pack cans right in the front of the door of the store. What's the GP per CE on them? And he's like, it's, you know, $6.11. I'm like, okay. And I go around to the back, and he's got 212 cans and 212 bottles buried in the back of the walk-in cooler of the beer cave. I'm like, okay, what's the GP per CE on those? And it's like $6.82. I'm like, so there's a 70 cents disparity. Which ones do you sell faster? And he's like, I sell the 12 packs faster. I'm like, why the fuck do you have the 24 packs out in the front then? If you're focusing on volume only, why the fuck do you have the 24 packs out in the front of the cooler when you are saying that volume is king? And it like snaps his brain and is like, okay, I get it now. And it's like, if you're just focusing on that, you should be doing this, but you're not focusing on that. You're focusing on what is the largest pack, not the fastest velocity item. And thinking about the largest velocity item and the largest profitability item and where you put that in the cooler, you've got more opportunity to adjust shopper behavior and influence shopper behavior as a rep than any of us give ourselves credit for.
And I think it's important to tie what you just said. That's where it's important to tie it to the case equivalent, not to the unit, because that's how we equivalize size. So when we say velocity, it's total velocity equivalized against the two packages. So it's apples to apples. So I think that's important.
Yep. And it's important to think through that too, because it's not like when people are buying product, they're drinking fluid ounces. They're buying it in different unit or case sizes, but they're actually consuming it always in an ounces way, in some way, shape, or form. So looking at it in a CE basis is just easier understanding how to move the needle around.
I
From
mean,
my perspective.
it's the only way you can look at GP because you have to equivalize.
Yeah.
A 19 2-pack versus a 4 6 12 is you got to equivalize it.
Yep.
Otherwise, you can't make good GP decisions. And the only way you can do that is some kind of unit of measure, which for beer is the CE, but 9 liters for wine. What else am I thinking of? 9 liters for wine and
Spirits?
I think they use 9-liter cases too.
I'm almost like all the wine and spirits folks are 9-liter wine and spirits is their equivalency there. Yeah. Mikey, what about middle management? Team leads perspective, insufficient coaching, not getting out with reps, not picking up what reps are doing, like anything there on things that you think middle management, just from a team lead, area sales manager, director, kind of like trip over themselves in driving GP per CE down?
Yeah, I think it all comes back to what Ross always says, which his T-shirt should be plaqued with is, what are we trying to accomplish here?
Yeah.
His tagline. And what we said in the very beginning is being aware of it. So if our middle managers are not aligned with gross profit and velocity like we are as a company, there's going to be that break, right? And they're not going to train the reps up on to pay attention to that and do exactly what you just said in that example, Bud, with the 12 packs versus the 24 packs. Our managers are more than just the people that are taking care of our sales reps, watching us, but they're also shaping our future as a whole distributor because they are bringing up the next generation of reps. They're engraving the culture or whatever we're trying to achieve as a business down into our reps. So it's super important to have them aligned, right? Great example of walking into an account with one of my favorite encounters with Bob. Bob was down south. I'll pinpoint him down south, and Bob had been in the industry for, he claims, longer than I had been alive, which could be true.
You are pretty young, and he could be pretty old.
Pretty old. I'm pretty old. I'm older than I look, but yeah, and talking with Bob about velocity and gross profit, right? And they were launching Yingling Flight. It was a brand new brand that was out on the display. They're trying to get out there, and he had 12 packs and cans and bottles displayed. And I was with the team leader, and this is where middle management's coming in, right? So the team leader and Bob, and we're looking at that, and Bob's so proud of how he has both packages out there, and they're both selling pretty good, about the same clip. We start looking at, well, what's more profitable? What do we want to really steer the consumer to? Right now we're getting a 50-50 chance. Is there a GP difference between the two? When we looked, and it was like $1.25. It was a pretty big difference between cans and bottles. Bob was unaware, right? Team leader was unaware. Team leader right away was like, wow, we need to switch this up. Why don't you put I think the bottles were more profitable. Why don't you put the bottles on top of the cans to kind of bring visibility? And Bob looked right at the team leader and goes, well, why the hell do I even want the cans on display, period? I'm only gonna push what I want to push, right? And I think that's where it's bringing that high level into the managers and your team leads to have to drive that culture down, but also have their focus and their coach up to stuff like that. Being aware.
And that's why we put a lot of pressure, for tying again back to last week's episode, put a lot of pressure on the team leads in either more at risk or bigger upside and bigger downside for the pros and cons as well. I love Russ is drinking a rosé as well.
Yes.
It is past 5 o'clock there, I think.
It is. Maybe people listening to podcasts have no conception of time, but yeah, it's evening here.
Yeah, Ross is in Italy, so he's sipping his fine wine.
Mike and I are in caffeine land still.
I'm still on my first cup of coffee.
I couldn't help myself. They just put out a bottle of rosé. I'm like, I have some.
Yeah, perfect.
I always love a nice rosé. When it's red wine mixed with white wine, you get the mix perfect is great.
Although it did make me think about that trends thing that you pulled up for today too.
Yes,
that we'll get to. But
we will get
specifically,
there.
I was surprised by the wine trends.
So the last piece around this is tying back to last week is like getting more money at risk for your middle management to drive the culture down, because they're a huge third rail conduit to getting what you want to do at the senior leadership roundtable down through the rest of the organization through either more resources and or higher upside and steeper downside as well, which are all things that are fun for us to mess with and play with when we're working on with clients to get team leads' attentions. Anything else you think we're missing in this discussion, boys?
I think to add to the middle management too, right? When we had also started talking about discounts, where do we discount? How do we discount? How deep do we discount? I think having that decision-making power, obviously in your middle managers, you need to have them aligned. You need to have them paying attention to what is profitable, very quickly be able to do the math. Is the deal worth it? Because we know if our sales reps have all the power in the world to discount where they want, they may be just discounting to get the volume, especially if they're only paid on volume. And they're going to be chasing that volume. But when we have our managers really looking over, and why did we take that? Why did we get that deal there? Was it worth it? Is that something we should have not pushed or suggested? But I think tying back into the overall, just having the discount math being engraved into our middle managers and team leads' heads as well.
And for me, I want to stress the tail wagging the dog element here, because in the absence of you controlling this, and I say you, the distributor, and I started with this, but I just want to hammer it home, which is others will take charge of it. Your suppliers will prioritize things that's in their best interest, and they may not necessarily align with your best interest from a profit perspective. Or your sales reps will focus on those items that drive the highest amount of volume, and that's not necessarily the right mix to be signed. And then additionally, what's being sold in the chain accounts, what's being purchased by your purchasers, all of it will be driven by a set of decision criteria that isn't like what Mike said, which should be the tagline, right? What are we trying to achieve? And if you're not trying to achieve maximum profitability, then you're trying to achieve something else. And you have to ask yourself, what is it that you're trying to achieve? Okay. And then is that what it is you're trying to achieve as a distributor? And I think that's an important question.
For sure. Well, let's pivot to a couple news stories. So one of the news stories here is talking about the growth and decline. This is from BW 166. Sharing the screen. Let's see. No. Entire screen. Let's see that one. There it is. Share window 3. So what's Bev Out look like? So this is BW 166 has covered tracking 100% of domestic tax paid shipments on all U.S. imports. So this is import data on beer barrels, wine 9 liters, and spirits 9 liters, and RTDs 9 liters as well. And this is the raw change, 12 months total. 2019 to 2025, and then also the last 12 months rate of change and 5-year compound annual growth rate as well. What are we seeing here, Ross? Mike, you guys are the data guys.
You guys are the data guys.
You guys are the data guys.
I love it.
Can you see it, Mike? All I see is dots across my screen.
Oh, you can't see it?
No, all I see is a flashing set of dots.
I can see it.
Let me just pull it up in the notes then.
It's in the notes, yeah. The share just must not have kicked over to you. So if you're on the YouTube, you can see this, but you can see the 5-year compound annual growth rate of beer barrels is down 2.1, wine down 2.4, spirits up 5.5. So there's the mix and match of that. And then spirits RTDs up 0.5 point as well.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by any of this, except the only thing that sticks out as surprising to me is how far down wine is. Just because the rule of thumb when I got into the industry was, wine is like watching paint dry on the wall, and that it never really moves. That the consumption is pretty well flat and has always been flat. Recessions, boom times, it's just flat. So I'd be interested to dive into that and understand, is it the budget segment? Is it the premium segment? Maybe the premium segment's doing just fine. Maybe the mid segment's suffering just because of, where the overall economy is falling because, as the top end of the market does well, maybe that, the higher end trends continue to be strong. I'd be curious to see underneath the hood. I'd also be curious to see under the hood of the spirits and see, how much of that's tequila. And if you take tequila out, what does it look like? And maybe you look at bourbon. What's bourbon doing? Japanese whiskeys, those sort of. Where's the hotness happening? I mean, obviously tequila's been hot. I wonder if it continues to be. I bet it does.
Yeah, I like that. All the way top right there too. The RTD share of spirits, 12 months to June 2019, 4.8%. 12 months to June 2025, 25.2%. All right, definitely growing share, which we know, and it's still hot. It's still growing. It's slowing some momentum, but it's still hot. It's still a huge segment, which leads you to think, okay, well, are people, I mean, the total spirit 9 liters are at 5.5. You alluded to maybe tequila or bourbon, but are people, beer drinkers, I should say, going over to the RTDs, liking them, and then jumping from there straight into spirits?
When we look at spirits too, you have to assume that a huge portion of that's being consumed in mixed drinks.
Yeah.
And whether that be on premise or off premise,
these RTDs are so readily available. I mean, hence the name, right? Everywhere. That they can pull consumers in for sampling most on premise. So you can grab an RTD of some sort. Off premise, you see them all the time. But is that what's drawing consumers in? And then all of a sudden they're like, hey, at home, I don't need this fancy can. I don't need to spend $20 on 8 cans. I can grab some vodka and some soda and make this at home, or I can grab some vodka and some tea and make this at home too. And is that what's happening for home consumption?
I just have a hard time seeing a beer consumer jumping to like sipping tequilas, but jumping into like mixed drinks with tequila, sure. I mean, they're not going to be sipping mezcals, but
yeah.
I mean, I think the mixed drink category is what's winning, and I think that's where those RTDs come in, because I think that shows the strength of the mixed drink category, the cocktail category.
Next piece is actually looking at this graphical too over the same time period, or actually a longer time period, all the way back to June 2015. And you can see that basically, they're jockeying for space back and forth. We can see in June 2020, that would be during COVID time, in the middle of COVID, you can see huge spikes on everybody climbing up from basically flat to declining, rate of change to just over right there, really, really right there at the beginning of COVID, flat to declining to up slightly to everybody jumping up through the first or end of 2020, anywhere between 5% to 10%. And then you can see the term I have fallen in love with COVID is the COVID echo. You have done well during COVID, you can then see the echo reverberate downwards. If you did poorly during COVID, you can see the echo reverberate positively after this. And in our industry, we did well during COVID, so we can see the reverberation of actually driving it negative. And really, traditional spirits giving the biggest fall from grace of being up almost 10% to being down 10%. That's a COVID echo if I've ever seen one. And then wine's kind of watching the same kind of path, but also echoing back up to the mean right now too.
Well, it goes back to the sentiment I see across the industry, especially with our customers, and you can see it really clearly here, right? The spirits X RTDs, so because that was more of a more recent thing, and wine have basically reverted to their mean, right? If you look at it, it was pretty flat across everything from the beginning of this chart to COVID. Those two have reverted back to the mean. Beer, on the other hand, it's going into no man's land. And I think that echoes through the sentiment that we feel in the industry.
Yeah, why? I don't know why beer continues to struggle to the level that it is. Other than, pricing has not been positive, but at the end of the day, we've got all of these things that are doing well. Like, I don't see it as a pricing issue because you've got RTDs for the other chart are growing so quickly, and those suckers are not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. So I don't necessarily fall into the trap of buying the price problem all the time.
But then again, you also have to think about the consumption patterns of the generation that's coming up right now.
Mm-hmm.
One,
That
they're
is the bigger
skewing
one.
they're skewing towards spirits, and then two is they're the same people that are going in and buying a coffee at the coffee shop that's $4 or $5 when they could save a lot more money by just drinking it at home. So it's about affordable luxury, and I would put RTDs in that category.
Yeah, I think the people that were used to going out and spending a budgeted amount on beer and drinking a lot of beer have shifted from drinking a lot of beer because it's no longer healthy for you, right? with all the new news stories, it went from being good for you in moderation to not being good for you, but also trying to be health conscious and maybe lose weight. But they don't mind still spending the same amount on their product for less. And that's where that whole shift is coming, where yeah, we see big packs and our volume packages losing volume, losing traction, and we see these small RTDs and things gaining traction. But people are not afraid to spend that kind of money on smaller packages. $20
But I think
for
we need to
pack.
double click into this, because I think that I heard a lot of people when RTDs first showed up on the scene saying that'll never work, because nobody's going to spend that much when they can just buy the bottle and mix it. Like why would anybody buy that?
Selling those products on premise when they first launched, exact same thing. How do I sell a $5 or $6 can of vodka soda when my tall vodka soda is only $2.50? So I didn't mean to cut you off there, but I wanted to add that in there.
We are endlessly lazy.
Well,
yeah.
I hate to use that word for that generation. I mean, I think that there's more to the. We could talk we talk forever about this. There's a lot of bad things for this new generation. They can't afford a house. They can't afford a family, but sure as hell they can afford a $6 coffee. They can walk in the coffee shop and they can buy their Cortano or whatever. What is it, Cortez or Cortano? The one with the espresso with a tiny bit of milk.
Cortado.
Cortado. There it is. I just learned that the other day. I'm ordering them. So it sounds cool.
But yeah, you're spot on, Ross. And they don't know. I don't want to say they don't know any different, but that's just that's how they've been raised. Starbucks has been around their whole life. The younger generation, they weren't around when there weren't Starbucks and $6, $7 coffees. It was 25 cents to fill your cup up or your mug up, and you want sugar and cream with that? Cool, it's over there. But that generation has changed, and now when you grow up and you're used to that $6 coffee, you're used to spending $20 on an 8-pack. You're used to buying gas at the price it is now and $6 eggs for a dozen eggs. You're used to that cost. You don't know about the olden days, and that's just that's the norm, right?
Hey, Folgers, man, best part of waking up.
That's what's in my cup. But I feel like that has a lot to do with it as well. But you're totally right. When those products launched, they were so expensive. They're still expensive.
They still are.
But I feel like that younger generation, that's just what they're used to. That's the cost of having a good product. But I also think a lot of it comes back down to, especially in the on-premise, consistency. You can always open up an RTD and it's going to taste the same no matter what establishment you're at. If you drink vodka soda or order a vodka soda or any kind of mixed drink for that, the difference between getting a mixed drink at Buffalo Wild Wings and getting a mixed drink at Lakeview Lounge is extremely different, right? So if you like your mixed drink to taste consistent and always the same, and you walk in Lakeview Lounge and you order vodka soda, you're getting vodka with a splash of soda. And most people don't like that. Some people don't like that. So they like that consistency. They know how it's going to taste. It's not going to be too strong. They don't have to be weird and ask for more soda or another lime.
But it's horribly tax inefficient. Like, you're just pissing money away on taxes. And, that's what I looked at. I was like, well, it'll go if they change the tax regime on these RTDs. They haven't. I mean, it's taxed the way it's taxed. It's taxed as liquor.
Yeah, some of them they have. If you're below, in some states, in some areas, if they're below 14 or 15%, they have changed the tax ratio.
Yeah, that's great. Michigan's one.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Mike's right. Michigan is one example of them. Speaking of RTDs and High Noon, somebody's getting fired. I don't know who's going to get fired, but somebody's going to get fired. So High Noon recalls. This is a hilarious story, but also want to highlight the power of the 3-tier system and our clients' good work too, and our industry's good work on the distribution side. But High Noon recalls parts of its vodka seltzer beach pack due to the inclusion of Celsius Astro Vibe energy cans that were inadvertently filled with this vodka seltzer. I mean, we could have done a cool crossover with High Noon and Celsius. They could have been designed out well, but I think a co-packer just, took us straight to the action and just said, hey, let's just throw High Noon right into a Celsius pack. And it looks like it's been recalled in these handful of states. Some markets, it hadn't even made it to the shelf yet. Like Michigan, it's only impacted distributors. Oklahoma, only distributors as well. Other states, it's impacted distributors and retailers. But like most recalls, this is going to get scooped up within 24 to 48 hours and be no issue. I mean, that's going to be a collector's item, though.
Yeah,
Astro Vibe with High Noon in it.
Yeah, they're just trying to bring back. I mean, if you mix a little bit of like half High Noon, half Celsius, they bring back the old like Four Loko with caffeine or B to the E. I mean, some of those classic brands that kept you up and drink more. Maybe that's what we need in our industry: adding caffeine back to alcohol so people can stay up longer, drink more. Great idea.
Yeah, while we're at it, bring cocaine back into it too. See what happens.
If it's good for sales,
why not, what do you like to always say, Bud? It's like I'm here for the show. What do you say? I just want to see what happens next.
I just want to see what happens next. I'm just here to see what happens.
Hey, the 3-tier system, we're ready. Let's bring on the controlled substances. We got you covered.
Oh, I love it. So that'll get all cleaned up. We'll get everybody back going there. And, it's pretty impressive that we still don't know what happened in the mid 2000s with the tainted strawberries, but we can scoop up in the beverage alcohol world any kind of issue within 24 to 48 hours and completely get it off the market in no time.
I think that's the plug for the 3-tier system.
100%, for sure. 100%. Well, boys, anything else for today?
I think that's it. I mean, I don't know what else we need to touch on.
I don't have anything else either.
Boy, that's exciting.
I know.
This is why we shouldn't record these on a Friday.
We'll cut this part out. We don't always do them on Friday.
Leave it in.
Do you have any fun stories,
Ross?
We'll
cut this part out.
You said today was a hell of a move, Ross. You got any fun stories on that?
What's that?
You said today was a hell of a move. Do you have any fun stories you want to tell us?
A 5-way roundabout. It was fun.
5-way roundabout.
I don't think. Listen. I don't. What I've discovered around learning or driving around Italy is that the rule is there is no rules.
Bumpers are there for a reason.
You just got to be aggressive.
Oh man!
Although I will say, when I was picking up the rental car this morning, I saw this poor bastard who they said the only car left was a manual, and I'm watching him stall the car out like 3 or 4 times.
Oh no! Oh no!
He killed it, and he's going down the ramp out into the streets of Florence, like into the busy fucking downtown streets. And I'm like, this poor bastard ain't gonna make it.
Oh man! I just want to see what happens next. You should have followed him and recorded that.
So last time we were in,
you go ahead.
Last time we were driving in Europe, Ross, we were in Lisbon and picking up a minibus for this. There were 6 of us on the trip. So we had picked up one of those Mercedes-Benz minibuses, and I thought we were going to get a manual one, which I know how to drive a manual, not particularly well. Fortunately, we got a automatic, but the Triptronics were on to get started. So I couldn't figure out how to get the Triptronics to stop. So I was like, we'll just figure it out on the way. So we get all the way down out of the parking garage, and we get dumped into a 5-lane roundabout with like 7 exits on it, and Sarah's sitting in the front seat. Sarah and Bud are the Griswolds in the front seat, driving the kids down to the south part of Portugal. And Sarah's like, we need to go on that exit. as we go right by it. And I'm like, we're not making it. And she's like, what are we going to do? And my buddy from the back says, we're going around again.
Is that the first roundabout as you pick up the cars at the airport?
It's like it throws you right into a roundabout and dips you around.
That was my first time driving in Europe on this trip.
Yep.
In that same damn roundabout, because I had just gotten the mirrors in position, and I hadn't driven Europe in 4 or 5 years. And that's the first thing you hit, and it's like, welcome back, motherfucker.
It is an insane roundabout.
It is insane.
It's insane. It's got stoplights. There's like 5 lanes. There's 7 exits. It's incredibly. It is mind-boggling for an American.
My anxiety is already getting high just talking about it.
Your anxiety doesn't.
What's that mean? The American mind can't comprehend.
Yeah, exactly. And Mike, your anxiety doesn't peak until you're hanging 40 feet in the air with no ladder trying to install your Starlink.
The only thing that would make it worse for Mike is he was having to eat Indian food while entering the 7-way roundabout.
That's true.
If that was the only restaurant that was open and I was stuck in that roundabout, I would just give up.
Take me now.
Well, good episode, boys. If you're out there in listener land, we appreciate you listening. If you have questions for us, things you want us to answer, please hit us up at info@vxptech.com. That's INFO. Y'all know how to spell that already. I don't know why I'm spelling that. At vxptech.com. We will be back again next week for more episodes. We got a nice little organized run here, and we're going to keep having fun and keep bringing you the content. So, for those of us where it's already past 5 o'clock, cheers and enjoy your vino, your rosé for the weekend. And for those of us, and for those of us who are still getting to 5 o'clock, I hope the future is good, Ross. I hope we have a good rest of our Friday. So.
Yeah. I hope your future brings you rosé, all of you.
That's right. Cheers, boys.
Cheers.